before we get started about talking about different personality types, we're just going to jump straight in. But this is kind of a little prequel here. It's important to understand that all people have the same basic needs. Like we're going to talk about like different unique details of the way people behave and why we do the things we do. And it's interesting to look at, but it's important to realize we are more alike than different. And so, to give you an example of that, in the broader field of psychology, um, there is an agreed upon, like it's called the hierarchy of needs, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and it looks like this. I'm going to make it full screen so you can see it. So, it's a pyramid, and that shows our overall like mental health and health in general. So first, the base layer of our health is physiological needs, and that's basically like what you would consider our basic needs: food, water, warmth, rest. Like we have to sleep, we have to eat, we have to drink water, and we have to stay warm. If we don't, we'll die. Like it's a basic need. And then the next level there is safety needs, and basically that's like security or like shelter, like a kind of a little bit of physical stability. And those bottom two layers are our basic needs. Um, and everything on top of that is built upon having our basic needs met. So it's going to be really hard for us to be the best that we can be and our live life to its fullest if we don't have those basic needs met. So those bottom two, physiological and safety. And then we get into the psychological needs, and this is kind of where we're going to start talking about personalities. And the first base of psychological needs is belongingness and love, basically community. So like every person is made to have community. Like we are not made to live life alone. Like that's why solitary confinement is such like an extreme punishment, is because that is taking away a basic psychological need, which is terribly difficult. So then on top of our community, then we have self-esteem. So like the feeling of like accomplishment or like kind of a not a status necessarily, but just like feeling that you have accomplished something or feeling that you have worth. And then the very top of the pyramid where it says self-actualization there in blue, that's self-fulfillment needs. And they're not really psychological needs. It's more of a personality need. This is what we talk about most people talk about when they're talking about their um, like personality type. They're thinking, okay, how can I fulfill myself? And that basically means, expressing yourself and doing things. Um, Let Jacqueline in here. Expressing yourself and doing things that um, like represent who you are, or maybe make you feel like you have been able to like be yourself as an individual to the fullest. Um, so there's a lot of different aspects of our needs, starting at the basic needs all the way up to the very intricate details. But all that to say, we are basically the same. Every single person has all of these needs. And what we're going to look at is how we might think or behave differently so that we can better understand ourselves and grow in maturity. So, like, the more healthy you become over time, you'll be more mature and you'll grow up a little bit. So, um, we're looking at what's called the nearest type explorer. And that's what the personality test that you guys took is the nearest type explorer. And it's not the only personality profile explorer thing. It's not the only tool, but it's the one that I'm most familiar with and the one that I like best. So everything that I'm going to talk about in regards to like personalities has to do with this particular system. But I know did you guys do the Enneagram at some point last summer? So it's
The ones who were with us last summer in the psychology class took the Enneagram, but now there's quite a few new students here, and I'm not sure if they've taken it or not.
okay. So the Enneagram is kind of a similar kind of tool, but it's organized differently, and it's a little bit different than this one. You'll see. But okay, so while we're talking about remote learning, we're going to be exploring all the parts of the pyramid that are community and above. So we're not going to be talking about our safety needs or our psychological need or physiological needs. We're only going to be talking about our psychological needs. So if you don't have your basic needs met, like for people who don't have their basic needs met, the exploring psychological stuff is really not the most important thing or the most urgent thing. Um, it's gonna need to be built on this base. Okay, so I'm just gonna go through the different letters. So you guys got a 5 letter personality type that you tested for, and I'm gonna go through each letter, and we're gonna kind of explore what those mean because they might mean something different than what you originally thought. So the first letter, and I'll use myself as an example. I am an ENTPA. So the first letter for me is E for extroverted. And basically, that is how we interact with our surroundings and where do we get our energy from and where's our energy expended. So if you got an I, that stands for introverted, and that doesn't mean you like people. You might think, okay, introverted people don't like people and extroverted people do like people. That's not at all what that means. Um, I test right in the middle, like 51%, 49% introverted, extroverted. So sometimes I test as an I. Basically, what that means is where do you get your energy and where is your energy spent? So an introverted person gets energy from spending time alone, whereas an extroverted person gets energy from spending time with other people. And then just flip that around. If you're introverted, then when you're with people in a social situation, in a social setting, then you are expending your energy. You're exhausting your energy that you've gained from spending time alone. Whereas if you're extroverted, it takes energy and focus for you to be alone. So it's actually more draining for an extrovert person to be alone than it is for them to be in public or in a social setting. So that's what introvert extrovert actually means. Um, it's not you like people or don't like people. It's just where do you get your energy and where's it spent. Okay, so the second letter is either going to be S or N. And S, I don't know why, but S stands for observant and N stands for intuitive. Um, so if you are observant, if you got an S, that's basically we're talking about how we see the world and process our surroundings. So I know it says energy, which can be a little bit confusing with the last one, where you get your energy, but this is just their names for these different letters. We're basically talking about how we see the world and process our surroundings. So if you got S, that means observant. And basically, if you're observant, that means you're highly practical. Like you live in the moment. Like when you're hanging out with people or when you're doing something, your mind is not drifting away. Probably you're more apt to be focused on what you're doing, or at least more aware of where you are, what you're doing, and your focus is on what's happening right now. Whereas if you're intuitive, like me, I tested ENTP. So intuitive is more theoretical, like you think more theoretically. So these people are like, if you're intuitive, more imaginative and open-minded and curious, and focus on hidden meanings and future possibilities. So instead of living in the moment, like we can be a little bit spaced out and miss out on some stuff in the moment, is because we're living in our head. We're always, okay, we might see something that someone is doing. So like an observant person might notice a change in the way somebody's dressing or the way somebody is talking, the vocabulary they're using, and they're gonna really focus on that and pay attention to what's going on there, so they can figure out why, like what's going on here. Whereas an intuitive person might see that and immediately start trying to think and come up with theories on why that changed. So you can kind of see the difference, observant versus intuitive. One is living in the moment, that's observant, and intuitive is more like living in your head, and kind of your mind might pick something that you observe and run with it. Not to say that if you're observant, then you don't think, or if you're intuitive, then you can't live in the moment and you can't be observant. You're just a space head. That's not what that means. It's just like what your tendency is whenever you are stressed out or whatever, or you're just average day. That's what you're going to lean toward. So the next one, the next letter is going to be your nature, either thinking or feeling. So it's a T or an F. And that is basically how we make decisions and cope with emotions. So you might think, okay, if you're a thinker, then you're a robot. And if you're a feeler, then you're just a basket case. That's not the case. All it really means is like thinkers are more in touch with their thoughts, and they control their thoughts, or their thoughts control them. Whereas feelers is more in touch with your emotions, and you are more in control of your emotions, or your emotions are more in control of you, depending on your maturity, stress level, all that kind of thing. So thinkers are going to have a harder time, like empathizing, like, trying to understand other people's emotions. Thinkers might have a difficult time relating to someone who's like expressing a lot of emotion. Thinkers generally don't express a lot of emotion, as at least their true emotion. They kind of keep that within sometimes, or they just don't know what they're feeling. Like, might have a hard time recognizing I am angry or I'm frustrated or whatever. You might have a hard time for your thinker actually naming what you're feeling. Whereas feelers, it's not to say you don't think. Feelers can think just as much as a thinker. It's just they're going to be able to express their emotions better, handle their emotions better, probably at least be able to control. What I mean by handle their emotions better is just have more of a handle on them, not necessarily just because you're a feeler doesn't mean you're emotionally mature. It just means you can express your emotions and you recognize them. So the next letter is your tactics. That's how we approach our work, planning, and decision making. And this part of your personality this is really pertinent to online school. And again, what we're talking about here, we're talking specifically about online school, but it also, all this stuff is going to apply to basically anything in life, whether it's in school, online school, things that have nothing to do with school, your relationships to your parents, your friends, your work habits, everything. So back to this letter. This is the fourth letter, and it's J or P. So if you got J, that is for judging, and it doesn't mean you're judgmental. Okay, so J is not judgmental. It just means that you have a tendency to plan and to have a strong like work ethic. That means like once you get something, you're going to stick to that thing, and you stick to a plan. So when you plan something, you're going to have a backup plan and a backup plan for your backup plan and all that. Whereas if you're prospecting, you're more of a reactor than a planner. Like if you're prospecting, it's like you are just looking for the next opportunity, and that leads some prospectors to be what I call serially passionate, which basically just means not passionate about cereals like Frosted Flakes and stuff, but like passionate about one thing like for a period of time and then move on to something else. So like I am prospecting all the way. My ENTP, like P is like 80 something percent. So I like get really into something for a little while, like mountain biking or recording music or videography or something. And I'm really, really into it for like a month. And then my interest kind of shifts to something else, and it just kind of rotates in circles like that, where I might not care at all about recording music next month, but it'll come back around to where I don't have any interest in doing it. But then sometimes I'm like, man, I just really want to do this and don't want to do anything else. So that's judging versus prospecting is basically planner versus reactor. And then lastly, the identity. And this, you can, okay, so the name that you got, whether it's executive or consul or entertainer or whatever, you can have an entertainer or whatever with an A at the end or a T at the end. So this can be for any personality type, but it's showing where is your confidence kind of from. So if you have an assertive personality, A, then your confidence comes from more from within yourself. Whereas if you have a T, that means your confidence probably likely more comes from outside, from other people. So what other people think about you is important over your confidence. And that you might look at that and say, okay, assertive is better than turbulent, but that is definitely not the case. With social media and everything, a lot of times we think that if you're self-confident, that is better than if you care what other people think, but that's not really true. Like, think about if somebody is really, really terrible at something and they keep doing it over and over because they're confident and they don't care that other people are like, dude, you're harming, other people, or you're harming a situation because you're bad at this. They might think, oh, well, I don't really care what they think. I'm confident and I'm going to keep doing it. That's not good. Whereas if you're turbulent in that situation, if you're doing something that is harmful and people start reacting to that, you're going to be more aware of that reaction and change what you're doing because you care about what other people think. And in some cases, other people from the outside looking in can see that something is better or worse for you than you can. And on the flip side of that, so now you might think, okay, well, turbulence better than assertive. Well, if on the flip side, if you're doing something good and you're in a negative situation where people are reacting negatively to something that you're doing that is positive, then if you're turbulent, you might be tempted to give up. Whereas if you're assertive, you might press on through. So it's really a balance. All these personality traits, each one of those letters is what we'll call a trait. And all these traits balance each other out. There's pros and cons to every single one of them, and not one of them is better than the other. It's like Newton's third law, or whichever one it is. It's like if for every action, there's an equal but opposite reaction. Like, that's exactly what we're talking about when we're talking about these traits. So together, all these combine to give you a personality type. And there's actually 32 types, and they won't be correct 100% of the time. So the 32 types are like your first four letters make up the name, and then you have an assertive version and a turbulent version of each type. And so, like I said, they won't be 100% correct all the time, but their purpose is going to be to pinpoint your tendencies and your motivations. It doesn't dictate what you do all the time, or it's just what you're probably going to do most of the time. And I'll give you an example, and then we'll discuss a little bit of some statistics. So looking back at the intuitive versus observant trait, that's the second letter. It's either either S or N. So 83% of people with the intuitive trait say that their minds often drift during a conversation. So if you remember, intuitive lives more in your head and observant lives more in the moment. So 83% of people with the intuitive trait say their minds drift during a conversation, but only 58% of those with the observant trait say their mind drifts. So what you can get from that is, in people with the intuitive trait are more absent-minded than people with the observant trait in conversations. Yeah, their minds drift more often during conversation with people than the observant trait. But look back at the numbers. It's 83% and 58%. Most people's minds drift during a conversation. It's not like intuitive people's minds drift and observant people's minds don't drift. Most people's minds drift during a conversation. It's just people with the intuitive trait drift a little bit more. Okay, another one is 76% of those with the prospecting trait say it's hard for them to focus on one thing for a long period of time, compared to 50% of those with the judging trait. So you remember, prospectors are looking for the next opportunity, and they're reacting to what's coming. Judgers are planning what they're going to do next and making a backup plan for their backup plan and trying to stick to it. So they can focus on one thing for a longer period of time, the planners, the judgers. But the prospectors are hard to focus more often. And that, again, it's 76% and 50%. So still we could say most people have a hard time focusing on one thing for a long period of time. It's not unique to individuals. It's just a human trait. So here's one, though, that is a little bit more of a gap. And this is the turbulent versus assertive. So 79% of people with the turbulent trait say that they think a lot about their regrets, compared to 42% of those with the assertive trait. So we can say most people with the turbulent trait think about their regrets, and most people with the assertive trait don't think about their regrets a lot. I mean, everybody thinks about their regrets, but the term was a lot. So that's not necessarily a bad thing, though, because think about if you think a lot about your regrets, then you probably might make better decisions based on what you learned in your previous decisions. Where if you never think about your regrets, there's no way for you to learn from them. So like I said, everything has a balance. Okay, so raise your hand again if you read your profile all the way through. Like all the way. Okay, I can't see everybody who's raising their hand, but let's get Hannah, Heather, and Charles. One of you guys, whoever wanted to raise their hand, who read it all the way through, tell me what was your personality type? Like, what did you test as? And what do you think about it? So who is it? Is it Charles?
Well, me and Hannah both tested as protagonists, and then for the 5 letters, I got E, N, F, J, and T. So I'm extroverted, intuitive, feeling, judging, and turbulent.
Okay, so when I went through those, when you read your profile, and I just explained all of those different traits, do you feel like it describes you? Does it sound like it describes you?
The judging is a little off, but it's only 51-49%, so I feel like there's probably one question that I answered differently. I don't think I'm a very judging person, but I mean, I don't know. Everything else, like, it really looks like kind of correct. Like, I think everything else kind of suits me.
All right, somebody else, tell me your personality. Let's see. Who else got their hand up? Ella.
I got the INFJT. So the turbulence, definitely me. I have a lot of regrets. I had to think about them a lot. So like tests and stuff. Like, man, I got a horrible grade on that. So like next time I need to study more. But overall, I got pretty good results, I think.
Yeah, cool. Okay, did anybody read their personality profile all the way through and thought, that didn't describe me at all? Raise your hand, put your hands down, but then raise your hand if you thought that didn't really describe me. I'll see if anybody thought that. I cannot see. There's like a +11 where I can't see everybody, and there's a hand raised there. So do all 11 of you have your hands raised?
Malachi, it looks like Malachi's hand is raised.
Okay.
Hey, Malachi, are you saying, did you not think that yours fit you?
A lot of it fit, but the judging one, like, I have a super hard time staying on topic and trying to get stuff done. So I feel like that one's not correct.
Okay.
And then the feeling one, I mean, yeah, my feelings control me, so I don't really know if, like, I don't know. When I was reading it, it just didn't sound like me.
Mhm. Okay, so you say you have a hard time staying on topic or something. Do you, whenever you're starting a project, do you plan like steps out what you're gonna do? Like I'm gonna do this first and then this or then this, or do you just kind of go for it?
I mean, I'll plan it out, and then I'll get distracted and go do something else, and then I'll come back to it and do it.
Yeah,
So I'll plan it out, get distracted, and then come back to it.
yeah. Well, remember, it's most people have a hard time focusing on one thing for a long period of time. Half of the people with the judging trait um, said that they have a hard time focusing on one thing for a long period of time. So just keep in mind that just because you tested as something doesn't mean that that's you all the time. So yeah, you might not. Some people might not feel like their personality profile describes them, or maybe who got a profile like on your results at the end where everything was really close together, like 50 or 60% on every trait. Did anybody that happen to anybody? Charles? Okay. James? Kara? Okay. So sometimes that can happen where a person is just maybe there's one or two things. Okay, there's one or two things that will probably cause you to get a profile or a personality type that you feel like doesn't fit you or you don't think fits you. The first thing is, and this is probably what happened for most people, is that your test, whenever you took the test, you answered really close to the middle. So remember, they had strongly disagree all the way to strongly agree, and then the things kind of in the middle where neutral was in the very middle. You had neutral, I agree, disagree, strongly disagree. So what you want to do when you're taking the test is answer as strongly as possible. Because different questions that gives different values to these different traits. So answer as strongly as you possibly can, and only answer. You should never answer neutral unless you absolutely like are neutral. You got to think about it. What do you actually do in those situations that the questions are describing? So that's probably what happened if you got a personality that you don't think matches you. Is you might not have answered the questions strongly enough or been confident in your answers, which is fine. I mean, some people are, need help taking the test because like if you're a personality that's more thinking about externally than internally, you might have a difficult time like recognizing, okay, what do I normally actually do in these situations versus what do I think that I do or what do I hope that I would do. So that's probably what happened is on your test, something about the way that you take the test can alter what profile you actually get. Because if you're answering everything close to the middle or close to neutral, then the test is going to have a hard time picking a side for that trait. The way that the math works out, it could take one trait and swing it over to the other side. Like for me, I test right in the middle on introverted, extroverted. Like half the time I test introverted, half the time I test extroverted. That's just how I am. But the second possibility is that you may not be mature enough yet or self-aware enough to answer the questions accurately. So what happens on a lot of these personality tests where people don't trust them and say, oh, there's nothing to that psychology stuff. A lot of times people don't really have the self-awareness to be able to answer the questions correctly, or maybe they think that they're answering correctly, but really they're answering what they would prefer themselves to be, which is not what we're trying to do. We're trying to look back at how do I actually behave in these situations. There's a question on there about if I'm at a party, am I on the outside like on the edge? Do I talk to my own friends or do I meet new people? Am I on the inside with all the action? I need to look back and not what do I think I do? What do I hope I do? What do I want to do? It's like looking back, what do I actually do? And what I want to do and what I actually do are different a lot of the times. Like I would love to be in the mix and, hanging out with a bunch of people that I don't know, but most of the time I'm off to the side with my friends that I already know. So what I want versus what I actually do is different. And sometimes, like I said, it can be hard because sometimes I am in the middle, hanging out with a bunch of people I don't know and having a good time, but that's not me all the time. Most of the time, I'm on the outside. So that's just what I'm getting at is if you got one that you don't think fit you, then maybe take the test again and take some time and think about like some stories that like real stories that you have that help you answer those questions and answer as strongly as you can. Okay, so next we're going to talk about roles and strategies. I don't have time. We don't have time to get into advice for every single personality. There's 32 of them. So I can't go through every personality and say, here's what your strengths are in online learning and here's what your weaknesses are. There's no way. We don't have time. So the traits are broken up. The 4 personality types are broken up into 4 roles and 4 strategies. Everybody has a role and everybody has a strategy. And depending on what your personality types are, they mix. So we're going to go through those right now. You can kind of look at them as the what and the how of your personality. So roles reveal what your interests and goals and activities you prefer, and the strategies reveal how you prefer to do those things and achieve your goals. So let's take a look at roles. It's important to note why they're called roles. Is because society needs different kinds of people in order to function properly. Those of you who grew up in church might be familiar with the concept of like the body of Christ. There's like a part in the Bible where it says, if the whole body were an eye, where would the sense of hearing be? If the whole body were an ear, where would the sense of smell be? Well, it's the same just in general in any healthy society. We can't all do the same things or society would be missing out on something. So these roles are going to help you understand what you prefer, and that might give you a hint of what your strengths and weaknesses in remote learning might be. And they come from the traits in the middle of your personality. So the 3 letters in the middle are where they kind of combine to make these. So let's look at these real quick. The first one is analysts. And analysts, somebody look at this slide right here and tell me what traits do the analysts all have in common? Somebody raise your hand and I'll pick you out. Okay,
Yeah.
whoever, Hannah, Charles, Heather, whoever you are.
Yeah, they have the N, I think.
They all have the N and they all have something else.
The T.
Right. So analysts all share the N, the intuitive and the thinking traits. So analysts are natural learners. Think about the intuitive and thinking traits. Intuitive is theoretical. You're living inside your head, and thinking is your whole decision making and the way that you cope with all your situations is to think through them. You make big decisions based on what logically makes the most sense to you, not what you feel like is the best for you. So think about those 2 things combining. Analysts are natural learners. They love like information and facts. so that their logical little minds can like play around with them, and they love an intellectual challenge. So for school, like they will like learning. They love to learn as long as it's something they're interested in, but analysts will probably get bored with mundane tasks or like busy work, and have trouble kind of getting started on that stuff because they're not interested in it. But once they get going, staying on task depends on how interested they are in it. So like if I'm trying to learn about recording music, that's something that I'm interested in. I love looking at the theory of it. How does all the different equipment work? How does all that fit together? What's the theory? Like, what's the idea behind certain methods of recording? So if I get into like a YouTube wormhole on recording music, I can stay there for a long, long time and focus on it for a long time because I'm super interested in it. And I'll learn just a whole lot of information because I'm just taking it all in. But if it's something like, I don't know, how plants photosynthesize to get their food, like some people love that. I don't care. So I'm going to have a hard time focusing in biology on photosynthesis or something like that. Like just that subject doesn't interest me as much. But once I get started, I still could enjoy it just from the simple fact that I'm learning new information. And that's kind of how analysts are. They thrive when they feel like they're learning something that is applicable. They're really, really logical, rational minded people that are, for the most part, not super in touch with their feelings. They can be once they figure it out, but naturally, I have a hard time. I'm just gonna be honest, I have a really hard time being in touch with my emotions. So the next group are the diplomats. So tell me, what traits do the diplomats share? And raise your hand. Okay, wait, I want to go back. Raise your hand if you're an analyst. If you have an N and a T trait, raise your hand. Nobody? Am I the only one? Okay, Kiana, Michelle. All right, Kiana, Michelle, Kiera. All right, so we got a few analysts. I feel like we're going to have a lot of these next guys. Diplomats. Okay, so look at this slide and tell me what they have in common.
They look like mentors to me, like people that would teach and stuff like that.
All right. Well, okay, look at the letters. Oh, somebody said it in the chat. Yeah, Ella and James. Yes,
James.
N and F. So they all have intuitive and feeling traits. And you're right. They are people who are like very relational. That's the overarching characteristic of diplomats is they are relational before anything else. The overarching characteristic of an analyst is logic and all that. Diplomats are super relational. They a lot of times they're like the glue that holds their friend group together because they encourage people to get along. They're so relational. People in this role might struggle with the lack of relational contact during remote school or remote work. So if you're a diplomat, raise your hand if you're a diplomat. Okay. Yeah.
Several.
Yeah, like several.
Brittany, Malachi,
Brittany,
Ella, Cara, Rachel, Jamaica, Hannah. I don't know. Is that Hannah, Heather, and who all is that? Who is that?
It's just me.
Just Heather,
Charles are both the same thing, ironically.
James, Kiana, Jamaica, bunch.
Okay. Notice where the two people who tested as the same thing are sitting. They're diplomats that are super relational, and there's 3 of them in one call. So yeah, you guys are going to be super relational. The most important thing in a lot of diplomats' minds is their relationships, their friendships, their relationships with their family or their significant others. Their whole lives revolve around their community. And going back to the hierarchy of needs, look at that. The very baseline of where am I? There I am. The very baseline of your psychological needs, love and belonging, community, relationships. All right. So these people are super in touch with the base need, the base psychological need for all of us. So that's probably, I mean, if you think about it, there's a lot of those people in this group, and they're the most common type of person, I believe, just in general. So think about that there just so happens to be more relational people than any other kind of person. And what kind of person do you think we need in society to hold us all together? Probably relational people. So it just so happens to work out that role is very, very prevalent. I'm going to try to skip back. I can't select my slides. Okay, so the next one is sentinels. All right, look at this one again and tell me, what do they have in common? All right. Brittany, Rachel, Malachi. Raise your hand if you're a sentinel.
James said it in the chat. SJ.
Yep, S and J. So observant and judging. Sorry, I don't have the chat open. I've got the participants open so I can see people's
It's
hands.
okay. We will translate.
Yeah. Okay, so observant and judging. What comes to mind when you hear the word sentinel? What is that? What kind of image does that have in your mind? Somebody, just unmute yourself and answer.
James said guards.
Guards, yeah. Okay, so sentinel is a word that's like a military term that's like someone standing guard, right? And someone, like, you imagine a sentinel is just like a really like firm.
Ella says powerful, strong individuals.
Yeah. Okay. So get this. Here's the description for sentinels with the observant and judging traits. Sentinels are they might be the most naturally suited to remote learning because they are naturally hardworking and self-motivated, and they love the stability of having a good plan and sticking to it. So when you think about sentinel, the word, like, that fits them pretty good, right? Stable, self-motivated, hardworking. So they can be, if you're a sentinel, raise your hand. I didn't see if anybody's doing that.
I cool. I know I'm not a sentinel person, but
You're cutting in and out, Hunter. Get a little closer to your mic.
the tomb of the unknown soldier in Virginia,
Mhm.
The guards are actually sentinels.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, they're called sentinels. So if you want to think about it that way, it's
yeah, that's
A
helpful.
great visual.
Yep. So yeah, they can be a powerhouse of productivity while learning remotely, but it all relies on having a good plan and developing good habits. All these people have the observant and judging personalities, which both lend themselves to planning and sticking to a plan. So if you're a sentinel, then having a good plan, which is important for everybody. Remember, we're all more alike than different. Having a good plan is important to every single person, but it is more important to Sentinels. Their success is going to depend more on their plan and their habits. All right, the last role are explorers. And they have, I'm just going to go ahead and tell you since they're the last one, they have observant and prospecting traits in common. So the S on the second spot and the P on the fourth spot. So they play the most spontaneous role of everybody. When you think about the observant trait, they live in the moment, and the prospecting trait, they kind of take life as it comes. They're really spontaneous. They love to get their adrenaline going, but the way they do that is like handling situations on the fly and improvising. They don't tend to be like obsessed with details, but when they and so that just in itself, those set of traits are going to make it a little bit unnatural for an explorer to sit at home on the computer or reading a book and sit there and do something that's very structured, very planned, the same every day, requires a lot of monotony. It's going to be hard for explorers. But when they get in the zone, they can be super, super focused and very, very productive. So yeah, explorers are gonna probably be put off with like the rigid structure of education, like formal education, but they can hone their ability to balance work and fun and be surprisingly productive. Like, don't think just if you're an explorer, don't think, well, school's not for me. That's not true. With some maturity and self-awareness, you can figure out how to get in the zone, like put yourself in the zone, and you can have super productive bursts of energy for your work. So those are the four different roles.
Hey, Devin, can I just
yeah.
hop in real quick and
Yeah,
tell
sure.
you that we've pushed our other session since we've still got some stuff to do here, and I want you to be able to finish. So you can have until 11.
Okay. Sorry, was I supposed to end at 10:30?
Yes, and that's okay. We started late to give everybody time to log on and all that kind of stuff. So you just keep going.
Okay. All right. So those are the roles, and that's again the what. What are your interests and what are your goals probably going to be? What are the activities you prefer? So raise your hand if you think that your role describes you. If when I read that role, raise your hand if you think that, yeah, that probably fit at least a little bit. And again, it's not supposed to describe you to a T, but just your tendencies of what normally you lean toward. So it looks like most people kind of recognize themselves in that role. So the next, does anybody want to give me an example? Like if you feel like you really feel like that role describes you, does anybody want to share with me how you feel like or think that it describes you?
Yeah, actually, I will.
Go ahead.
So, I've always kind of wanted to go into the psychology line, something along therapy and stuff like that. And I took the test and I got. Sorry, I joined in late, so I'm kind of like just hopping in. But
Are you good?
I got mediator, so I think it was INFP. I think that's what it was.
Mhm.
And it said that it's more along like what you want to do, stuff that makes you feel like you're doing good for others and makes you feel appreciated. And it was saying that good roles and stuff, like good good jobs and stuff for them to go into, stuff along like psychology and things like that. So I just thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, so if you were, what did you say your personality was?
Mediator.
Mediator. So if you go look, that's a diplomat, which are the relational people, right? So yeah, that's super cool. All right, so let's go on. This is the last thing we're going to talk about as far as the personalities go. And this is our strategies. I have no idea. Nope. Okay. My slides got all messed up. Okay, so your strategies are how you prefer to do things. And they're from the first and the last letter of your personality. So either introverted or extroverted, or assertive and turbulent. Okay, so the first one is called confident individualism. And can anyone guess what traits make up a confident individualist of the first letter and the very last letter, based on what I told you about the traits? Does anybody feel like they can make an educated guess on whether they're introverted or extroverted? What do you think?
Most likely extroverted. Or would
Extroverted.
it be introverted because it's individualism?
So yeah, they're introverted.
Okay.
They're introverted, and
I was about to say, because that's what I think I got the confident individualism.
yeah. Okay. So do you think that the last letter of their personality type, do you think they are assertive or turbulent? Like, do you think they get their confidence from within or their confidence from the people, what people think about them?
Within. So
Yeah.
it's
So,
right?
yeah. So it's introverted and assertive. So if you got an I at the beginning and an A at the end, then that is a confident individualism. And as you might be able to guess from the name of it, they prefer to learn and work alone. Again, this doesn't mean that they don't like people. Okay. They can, like a diplomat, like all those relational people can also be confident individualists. It doesn't mean they don't like people. It doesn't mean they don't care about other people. But it just means when they are motivated to accomplish something, like get a task done or achieve a goal, they'll probably be the most productive if they're left alone. So again, it doesn't mean that they are motivated by being by themselves. It just means that whenever they are motivated, they're probably going to be most productive if they're left alone. Does that make sense? Okay. The next one is people mastery. And this one is not as obvious. So I'll go ahead and tell you, people masters are extroverted and assertive. That's what I would be, a people master as far as my, what are these called? Strategy. So people masters are confident and they're outgoing. They feel energized and comfortable in social situations. They like a challenge. They're also opinionated, and they don't really filter their opinions. Like, they're going to say what they think and they're going to think what they say. So without maturity and without self-awareness, people masters can like kind of toe the line between candid and rude, because they're going to tell you what they think. It's just a matter of, are they going to do it in a respectful way? Are they going to consider what other people's feelings are? But once they master the balance between speaking your mind and considering other people's feelings, they can be really good at dealing with like tense situations, like interpersonal conflict at work or at school. Like I was actually, when I was in middle school, we had, do you guys still have like peer mediation? Is that a thing? Okay. When I was in middle school, we had peer mediators, and basically people like this would kind of work with the guidance counselors. And if there was like two kids who had a problem with each other, then they would get like me or somebody else who was a peer mediator to like sit down with them and the guidance counselor and like talk it out, kind of. So basically what I'm getting at, people masters, extroverted, assertive, can be really good at dealing with intense situations, like within people, and they're more than willing to team up with others and work as a group, and can be really good at creating opportunities for the people around them to use their strengths. So because they're extroverted, they're going to get to know people. And because they're assertive, they're going to be confident in leading them and kind of facilitating that. But because they're assertive too, they're also going to be confident in their own abilities. So you don't have to work with other people. It's just that you can, and you probably would have a knack for it if you're a people master. So if you're extroverted and assertive, raise your hand if you got that. Anybody get extroverted and assertive? Stephanie, I know your personality type. Your hand should not be here.
That's not my strategy.
I know. Your hand's raised.
Oh, is my hand raised? Oh,
Yeah.
Whoops, sorry.
Okay, so Malachi and one of the Heather, Hannah, or Charles.
Heather, Hannah, Charles, somebody.
I'm sorry. I thought I lowered my hand. I'm still trying to get used to this Microsoft
That's
thing.
okay. That's
Me too, obviously, Malachi. I still have my hand up too.
See, okay. That was a perfect example. It doesn't really matter that Stephanie didn't have her hand raised, but because I am a people master and I'm going to speak my mind, I said something. It doesn't even matter that her hand was raised or not. But I mean, that really does describe me. Okay.
And I think the first thing I said was, I'm sorry, which would also fit into my turbulence. So, yeah.
Cool. Being living examples here of our personality profile.
That we are. All they would have to do is observe us for a short while and they'd be like, oh, yeah, that fits.
Okay. Third one out of 4, we're almost done with this part, is constant improvement. And this is introverted and turbulent. Okay, I'm going to go a little faster through these because we're going to run out of time. As constant improvement might suggest, constant improvers are their own worst critics, and they often feel like something is missing from their lives. And this is, again, if you have an I at the beginning and a T at the end. So you can feel like you're stuck in a rut at school, or like just stuck in something where you are in life. But oftentimes it's really just a feeling. It's not really a reflection of reality. A lot of people who are constant improvers might hold themselves back from moving on to something else because they feel stuck. But in reality, that doesn't necessarily mean that you are stuck. You can, if you just realize your situation and kind of like take a step back, you might be able to realize, hey, I can do this activity, or I can join this club, or I can do this. It's just a feeling that people with these traits often get, is that something's missing or that they're stuck. But again, just a feeling most of the time. Constant improvers, because they're turbulent trait, care a lot about what other people think about them. But because of this, so that could be a negative, but it's also could be a motivation. They have a strong drive and they tend to be perfectionistic. And oftentimes when they do something, they're going to do it really, really well. But a drawback to that is you can be afraid of failure. So when you harness the perfectionism for your personal goals and interests, the result could be pretty impressive. Like you could get a whole lot done in a really, really impressive way and be really productive and successful. But that perfectionism could backfire. So you got to be careful that you might be tempted to abandon a project altogether or an assignment because a single detail doesn't line up. So when you're at school or when you're working from home and you get into something and there's an unforeseen detail or something that comes up that you didn't expect that kind of messes your plan up a little bit, don't give up on it. Don't just throw it away, because you can still get it done and get it done well. It just might not be perfect the way that you had it planned out from the beginning. So as long as you resist the temptation to give up when you encounter problems, you can be super, super productive and do a lot of things really, really well. just be on the lookout for that temptation, I guess, to give up when it doesn't go exactly according to plan. Okay, so the very last one is social engagement. And these have the extroverted and turbulent traits. So social engagers are drawn to work with human interaction. So the extroverted trait, they love being around other people. They get their energy from being around other people. But their turbulent trait, they value the admiration and the opinion of others. So the tension that comes from being both extroverted and turbulent can be kind of stressful because their social, like their boldness is kind of like, I guess, like painted or outlined with uncertainty. Like you might do something spur of the moment, and then later, like kind of be like, oh, should I have done that? Like, I don't know. Like I'm kind of uncertain about what I did there, even though I did it with a lot of confidence at the time. But that can make them more considerate as they're being bold. So the more experience you get of doing things and then being uncertain about them later, then over time you'll start to grow and you can be more considerate of the outcomes of your boldness as it's happening. So the more you mature, the more that your boldness is going to be an asset, whereas whenever you're immature, your boldness might be more of like a hindrance or like a I don't know what the more negative than if you were mature. I'll just put it that way. So these people can be both fun and responsible in their success, and they feel more successful when they receive recognition. So going back to that, going back to the hierarchy of needs, love and belonging or esteem, those are basic psychological needs. And so these people in general with the turbulent trait, that's going to be more important to them than others, is that feeling of recognition for what they've accomplished. All right, so those are the strategies. Who thought their strategy described them? Okay. So a lot of you guys too. I think these general roles and strategies are more helpful to me than like my actual personality type, because I do kind of drift between introverted and extroverted. I kind of mix between those two personality types, the INTP and the ENTP. So these I can and like I said, this is why I can't go through every single personality and say, here's what you do to be good at online school. It's because they're so complicated, right? Like you might be a mix of a couple different ones because you have two traits that are really close together. So it's just the more that you understand of your tendencies and what you normally would prefer, the more you're going to be able to do something and create habits and a plan that fits you. So I can't, like I said, I can't really go into all that for every single personality type. But remember, like I said before, we're more alike than different. So to wrap up here, I just have a few practical things that will be beneficial to everyone and will help us all succeed no matter what personality you are. So if you're the kind of person that takes notes, this would be a good time to get out a notepad or whatever you take notes on and just write a couple of these bullet points down. So I'm going to pull up the
Hey,
slideshow.
Devin, are you recording this too? You are, aren't you?
I am, yeah.
Okay, so we will try to post this recording in the Google Classroom in case you guys want to go back and, jot down anything too that you might miss today, or if you want to go back to it. So, yeah, we'll do that too. But take notes.
All right, these are for everyone. All right, go back down right here to the physiological needs. Read those: air, water, food, shelter, sleep, clothing, not reproduction. We're not going to do that right now. But the physiological needs, like stay rested, eat well, and be active. Like your psychological health is built on the foundation of your physical health. If your body's not healthy, your mind's not going to have a chance to be as healthy as it could be. Okay? So stay rested, eat well, and be active. Take care of yourself physically, and that will help you do better mentally and psychologically. All right. There are so many studies that are studying the link between physical health and mental health, and it's undeniable. If you're taking care of yourself physically, you're going to be more healthy mentally. The second thing, create good habits. Okay, people in general are creatures of habit. All right. Now, people with the judging personality trait might be more. They might hold on to their habits a little bit more, but everybody has habits. I am not a habitual person at all. I'm prospecting all the way, but every single morning I get up and I make a cup of coffee. Every single morning, that's the first thing I do. I roll out of bed and I go make a cup of coffee before I do anything else. So create good habits. Starting with get the right amount of sleep. Okay, if you sleep too little, then you're not going to be rested enough to focus. If you sleep too much, you'll be tired. I know that sounds weird, but you can sleep too much and it'll make you groggy and tired. It's like if you take like a 10-minute nap, you can wake up feeling rested. If you take like a 2-hour nap, day's done. Like I'm done after a 2-hour nap. Like it's just over. So get the right amount of sleep. That's part of your habits. Like I have a habit of going to bed at like 10:30, around 10:30, 11 o'clock, and waking up at 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning. Like that's my habits. Also, there's been some interesting studies done during COVID where people have deprived themselves of sleep unintentionally, but they have done it to themselves because with COVID and everything, there's not a lot of control. Like people feel like they have lost control. And one thing people have control over, no matter where you are in the world or who you are, is when you sleep. You can keep yourself awake, and you can, well, sometimes you can make yourself fall asleep, but you can keep yourself awake if you try. And that's what a lot of people are doing unintentionally. They don't realize they're doing it, is they're keeping themselves awake at night because that is something that they can control, and they feel like they have lost control during COVID, during the day when their schedule's been interrupted. So if you see that in yourself where, man, I've been staying up till 1, 2 o'clock in the morning every night, and then I have to get up at 7 o'clock to go to school, like, you know that's probably not good for you. 5 hours of sleep is not enough. You're not going to be able to be productive at your most productive with 5 hours of sleep. So get the right amount of sleep. That's a really important habit. So that's why I stayed on that for so long. Second, another good habit is when you take a break, like you do need to take breaks during school. When you take a break, though, don't start an activity that could distract you from getting back to your work. So what do I mean by that? Like other activities are competing with school or whatever you're doing for attention. So just take a break. Go for a walk, get a snack, listen to a song, play one game of Call of Duty or something, but do something that has a beginning and an end. Okay? So like TikTok doesn't have an end. You just keep scrolling. There's not a beginning and an end to TikTok or Instagram. They just scroll and scroll and scroll. So those are going to be, grab your attention more and hold your attention more, because what they're doing is every time you scroll, it's like gambling a little bit. Like your brain's like, okay, am I going to like what's coming up next? I got to keep scrolling because I might really like what's next. I'm going to keep scrolling because what's next could be really awesome. There's not an end to it. But if you say, okay, I'm going to play a game of Call of Duty or a game of whatever, or go for a walk, then you can say, okay, after this one game, I'm going to get back to work. And when it's over, just have the discipline to do that. If you're the kind of person who binge games or binge watches TV, then don't turn on the TV and watch an episode when you know you're going to watch the next one. Like have the self-awareness and the maturity to not do the things that you know are going to keep you from getting back to work. So when you take a break, just take a break. Don't get involved in something that's going to hold your attention. So second, nope, this is a third point. So we got take care of yourself physically, create good habits. And then third, find a partner. Like we said, the base of our psychological health is community. So it's going to be easier for most everyone in some aspect to have a partner to work. So maybe it would be beneficial to work with someone like Heather and Hannah and Charles. They seem to always be working together. Or maybe you just need someone to check in and encourage you. Like maybe it would be distracting for there to be a person there all the time. But you know, it could be beneficial for you to have somebody like, hey, how you doing? How's school going? Are you staying on track today? Blah, blah, blah. Maybe you want to be an encourager for somebody else, because like a lot of you diplomats I know, which a lot of you are, you're going to be interested in helping other people do good in their school and achieve their goals. So maybe for you, you could stay motivated by saying, hey, did you get that assignment done that we have due tomorrow? And when you send that text, you're reminding yourself and kind of putting pressure on yourself. I'm telling this person to do it, so I need to have it done. So for you guys who are like relational and say, hey, I want to help these other people get their stuff done, you can actually use that to help them and motivate yourself by checking in on them. Because every time you check in on them, you're going to think, man, I can't be hypocritical and say, hey, did you get that done when I don't have that done? So find a partner. There's a lot of different ways to partner up. You could be the encourager. Maybe you recognize that you need somebody to check in, like, hey, man, give me a text tomorrow. Shoot me a text and say, hey, do you have this done? Or remind me to do it, because I'm gonna not be, probably not gonna be on top of that. If you see that coming and you have a partner, you can definitely work together to get yourself on track. Okay, fourth thing, focus on your motivation. Everybody has a reason that they want to do well in school. There are different reasons. There's a lot of different motivations, but remind yourself of your reason for wanting to succeed and make it visible. Write it down. Like what I did in college, I got some tape, like some masking tape, and wrote down a couple things that motivated me, like future opportunities, and tore off that piece of masking tape and taped it to my screen, like the bevel of my screen on my laptop. So every time I'm sitting there doing schoolwork, I might not be looking at it, but it's in the back of my mind. I'm doing this because it's going to help me have opportunities to serve people in the future. Make it visible. I think the tape on the laptop screen is super cool. Did they get the expo markers?
No, I forgot to put the expo markers in.
Okay,
Sorry,
that's fine. If you have a dry erase marker, or if you get a hold of one, you can write on your mirror. That's something that my mom does that she did growing up. She would write on the mirror, like if she had like a Bible verse or something she wanted to just focus on, she would write it on the mirror. That way, every single morning, as long as it was on the mirror, when she got up and was getting ready, it was there. She might not be looking at it. She might not be reading it all the time, but it's there. Your brain's taking it in, even if you're not thinking about it. So make it visible.
I use Post-its. I put Post-it. I write things on Post-its and then put Post-its all over my mirror in my bathroom. So, Post-its are a great way. You can put it all over your house. Wherever
I do Post-its too, and I also have a friend who uses dry erase markers on her refrigerator. Her refrigerator is like a stainless steel type thing, and she will write on those.
Yeah, just make it somewhere where you're going to see it. You don't have to read it all the time. You don't have to meditate on it and like whisper it to yourself all day. Just put it somewhere visible where your mind will have it, even if you're not focused on it. I would be interested to hear if somebody if you have a reason that keeps you motivated for school, what would be something that you would potentially write down?
I don't know if there's like anything specific I could necessarily write down, but like I really like my main goal in life is to help other people so they don't have to like go through bad things alone.
Mhm.
That's like my main goal. So I don't know if there's like any quotes or anything necessarily that would like go along those lines, but like I guess something I could write is something about not letting people go through what I've gone through or something like that.
Okay. Yeah, that's good. If you could think about it and put it in like something real short, because if you write it down, it's going to make you put it into words. So you might have a general idea of what it is helping people, but not have like a statement or something that you can like articulate it. If you write it down somewhere, when you write it, it's going to make you put it into words and articulate it, which might help you stay motivated and help you think about it. But that's really good. Like I'll give you mine. My motivation for work and for doing like my job at the church and stuff, coaching basketball and things like that, is I'm an analyst. I think about things logically, so it's probably not going to be super touchy feely. But my motivation is like I grew up here. This is my home. Kentucky and Somerset is, it's made me the person I am. And then I moved and I lived in another country for 3 years and really appreciated my hometown a lot more because I realized how I was shaped by it whenever I got outside of it. And I appreciated that. So when I came back to Kentucky, I immediately started looking for jobs where I could get involved with people locally and do stuff to help people where I'm from. So like this job at Upward Bound, like I want to help you guys get better at school. I want to help you guys like prepare for college, for like the sports network thing that we're doing at Southwestern. Like I'm not getting paid to do that. It's fun. I like doing the videography. I like the live streaming. And there's a lot of people right now from my hometown who can't watch their kids or their grandkids play basketball that if we put it online, they're going to really appreciate it. So like I probably could shorten that to a sentence somehow, but I haven't thought about it. I haven't written it down, but I'm always thinking about it. That's my motivation for doing a lot of stuff. So just find your motivation, write it down, make yourself articulate it, and then focus on it. Put it somewhere visible. And the very, very last thing, I'm going to share a different part of my screen now.
Hang on, I think Faith had something.
Oh, go ahead, Faith.
Okay, I don't know if this is an actual motivation, it probably is, and I just read the chat, and because some people said they don't have a motivation, and Stephanie and Brittany said that what is your future goal, and I was like, oh, okay, I didn't know what they were talking about. My biggest one is I want to make the world a better place by helping and donating money to many people, including the homeless, to it doesn't really matter if I'm poor, I would give all my money away because I care, so much about others than myself. And, I want to help animals as well. I want to help the whole world and, not just myself, because again I care about a lot of people and their needs, and they need support. And
So how could you tie that motivation to school specifically?
What do you mean?
So like if that's your life goal, then you have to do school. You know that you have an opportunity to learn and improve right now. So what about school, if you do well, could help you do those things in the future?
Oh my gosh, that's a hard question. Well, yeah, school can help me a lot. It'll, because that's what it's there for, right? It's there for you to help and help your future. And I don't know. I'm
Yeah.
It's so hard.
Think about this. If you have a passion for financially helping people, then what are you going to do if you don't have a job? You can't financially help people if you're hurting for money, like if you don't have any to give. So in school, you can prepare yourself to learn what you need to learn to go to college or to get a career or a job that will help you be financially stable so that you can help other people. So you get what I'm saying? Like you can tie all your motivations to school somehow, because education is there to prepare you not to pass tests. It's there to help you accomplish your goals for the future. So instead of thinking about your test coming up as like, man, I have to do good on this test so that I get an A, think of it like, man, I need to learn the material that's on this test so that I can build on that to help me reach my future goals, whatever those might be. Find a way to connect those. And like you said, putting that in writing will help you articulate that. Okay, so very last and probably not the most important one, but very, very important is make a plan. Be organized and have a way to keep track of your assignments, when they're due, and what's coming around the corner. So I'm going to share a website here with you. Let's see. Where's the thing? Okay. Can you guys see that right here?
Yes.
Okay. So this is called mystudylife.com. It's free. This is actually my classes. I'm taking a few classes right now at a college out in Eastern Kentucky. And there's all kinds of tools like this that can help you stay organized. So what I did, I got my that list of all your assignments at the beginning of the, what is that called, Stephanie? Curriculum, no?
Syllabus.
Right. I got my syllabus and I put in every single task for the entire semester for all 3 classes. And you can do this ahead of time if your teachers give you your assignments ahead of time, or you can just keep up with it. Like when you get an assignment, put it in there, put when it's due, especially if it's not like a daily like homework assignment. If it's like a quiz or something coming up, you can put the date, you can put what class it's in, and then you can see it on your upcoming tasks. Like my reading assignments, this one's overdue by 4 days, but I know that class is not until February 1st. So I'm behind. I should read that, but see, it keeps me on task because I don't like having that thing overdue. Like that will probably be done by the end of the day because I just don't like having things overdue. And I made these like that reading assignment is not actually due until next Tuesday, but I put for myself to get it done early. That way I knew if I procrastinated, it would be overdue. And I know that I don't like things left undone. So it's overdue by 4 days. I haven't actually looked at this week. So I'm going to want to do that because I hate having things overdue. And then next week I can see I got a quiz on the 1st on Monday. I got a quiz due I got to read an article on Tuesday. I got all this stuff to do. See my test coming up, quiz coming up. On your calendar, you can see when your classes are. You can add different things to your dashboard here. But this is just one tool out of a lot that you can use. Like there's my exams. I don't have exams in my other classes, just this one, I guess. And then you can also search through all your assignments and things like that if you remember that you have something coming up. But there's a whole lot of tools like that where you can organize your stuff and see it coming around the corner. So that's it. I have gone over a lot, but I hope that it's been helpful.